Let me ask you something that most men quietly struggle with. Have you ever been around a woman and found yourself unsure whether she actually likes you or is simply being polite? You start overthinking her messages, replaying conversations in your head, looking for hidden meaning, yet you're still left with that mix of hope and confusion. What if the truth is simpler than you think? There is a subtle behavioral shift that reveals far more than words ever could. When it shows up, she is already emotionally leaning toward you. Before going further, if this resonates with you, make sure to like and follow Talia Talks, so more men who are tired of guessing can understand what actions really reveal. Here's something important to understand. Women rarely express their true emotional state directly in the beginning. Instead, they communicate through signals. These signals are not loud or obvious. They are quiet, instinctive, and deeply psychological. When a woman is genuinely drawn to you, something in her internal state begins to shift. It's not just what she says that changes, it's how she behaves around you. Her emotional defenses, built from past experiences, don't disappear, but they soften. She starts allowing glimpses of her real self to come through without even realizing it. Most men miss this because they focus on words instead of patterns. Attraction is not declared. It is revealed through repetition and small, unconscious behaviors. One of the clearest signs is mirroring. She begins to match your tone, adopt your rhythm, or use your phrases. This is not random. It is subconscious synchronization. It means her mind is aligning with yours. At that point, she is no longer simply interacting. She is emotionally tuning in. When this happens, her nervous system begins to feel something important around you: safety. And safety, discover more. YouTube video player, transcript translation tool, programming for a woman is not just about physical protection. It is about emotional stability. If she starts laughing more naturally, holding softer and longer eye contact, or sharing small personal details without hesitation, she is already emotionally engaging, not physically attached, but mentally and emotionally invested in a way she may not fully recognize yet. This is where many men make their biggest mistakes. They either rush in for validation or they become uncertain and pull away. But the reality is, once she begins to emotionally synchronize with you, she has already made an internal shift. She may not consciously admit it, and she might even resist it, but deep down, she starts to feel that you are different from the rest. Attraction for women is not purely logical. It is emotional surrender, and that surrender only happens when she feels a rare combination of strength, calmness, and emotional stability in you. You will often notice small tests. She may lean slightly closer than necessary, extend conversations beyond their natural ending, or give you a look that lingers just a bit too long. She is not asking directly if you like her. She is silently asking if you are emotionally grounded enough for her to relax around. The mistake most men make is over-explaining, over-proving, or trying too hard to be understood. But to her emotional system, that often feels like instability. It creates the impression that you are seeking approval instead of holding your center. And the moment she feels that neediness attraction starts to weaken, what actually strengthens it is the opposite. Calm presence, emotional steadiness, the ability to remain composed even when she is playful, distant, or unpredictable. When she starts to show interest through playful questions, subtle challenges, or small excuses to keep interacting, she is not being random. She is opening a door for emotional connection to deepen. If you respond with grounded confidence, without arrogance, and without withdrawal, she feels something powerful, emotional safety without pressure. That is where bonding begins. Because connection is not built through intensity or effort. It is built through consistency of presence. You do not need to chase her energy. You simply need to remain stable while she figures out how close she wants to come. Women are not primarily drawn to what you say. They are drawn to how they feel when you are not trying to perform at all. Your silence, your tone, your stillness, these communicate more than explanations ever will. When she begins investing her attention, curiosity, and softness into you, the worst thing you can do is overwhelm it. Let it develop naturally. Do not rush to define it or secure it. Attraction grows when it is allowed to breathe. Here is a truth most people avoid. You cannot force a woman to feel something real. You can only become the thee of man where emotional safety naturally leads to attraction. It is not about techniques or manipulation. It is about emotional gravity. And that gravity appears when you stop trying to impress and start standing in calm certainty. That's the secret most men never truly understand. You don't capture a woman's attention by chasing her energy. You do it by becoming the man who controls his own. And this is where it gets more complex, because once she is already emotionally drawn to you, her behavior can start to look confusing. She may suddenly seem distant, colder, or unpredictable. Many men misread this moment and assume interest is fading, but in reality, something very different is happening. She is trying to protect herself. You've touched an emotional space inside her that wasn't fully planned, and now her mind begins to resist what her heart is starting to feel. Attraction exposes vulnerability, and vulnerability feels risky for anyone who has been emotionally hurt before. This is the exact point where your response decides everything. If you start chasing her, sending more messages, asking what went wrong, or trying to fix the distance, you reinforce her fear that your calmness was never real. But if you stay composed, respectful, and emotionally steady, something shifts inside her. She slowly begins to settle back into your presence again. Because deep down, what she is actually looking for is not pursuit, it's trust. She wants to know that when her emotions fluctuate, you don't lose yours. At times when a woman is emotionally invested, she may unconsciously create emotional tests. Not because she wants drama, but because she needs reassurance that your presence is stable enough to hold both her softness and her emotional complexity. She is not aware of it logically, but instinctively, she is checking your strength. Men who fail these moments tend to react emotionally. They become defensive, distant, or overly eager to fix things. But the man who passes doesn't react impulsively. He stays grounded, he listens. He responds with calm awareness instead of emotional pressure. And that is the moment her guard begins to drop completely. She starts to experience your presence as emotional safety. Without forcing it, she becomes more open. She shares thoughts she normally keeps hidden, asks for your opinion, and begins to value even your silence. Around you, she stops performing and starts being real. That is one of the clearest signs of true emotional investment. But this is where many men get comfortable too early. The masculine energy she is drawn to is not passive. It requires direction, purpose, and inner discipline. It is not maintained by focusing only on her validation, but by staying connected to your own life, goals, and growth. Because the moment your entire emotional world starts revolving around her response, the natural attraction balance begins to weaken. What keeps her respect alive is not neediness, but steadiness under emotional pressure. Respect is built when your behavior remains consistent, even when hers is not. So, if she seems unpredictable, don't assume it is rejection. More often, it is emotional testing. She is observing whether your stability is real or situational. Stay calm in those moments, and instead of losing balance, you actually become more magnetic to her. Now, here's the part most people are never taught. When she becomes emotionally attached, her entire perception of you starts to deepen. She doesn't just observe your actions anymore. She begins to absorb your emotional rhythm. If you are calm, she feels calm. If you are unsettled, she becomes unsettled too. Your emotional state starts influencing hers without words. At this stage, she begins to invest naturally. She remembers small things about you, adjusts parts of her routine around you, and starts making space for you in her daily thoughts without being asked. Her effort becomes voluntary, not forced. But with deeper emotional connection comes deeper sensitivity. She begins to notice everything: your tone, your distance, even small changes in how you respond. Many men misinterpret this awareness as clinginess, but it is actually emotional attunement. When a woman is emotionally invested, she can feel shifts in your energy even when nothing is said. That is why consistency becomes more important than ever. This phase determines whether the connection grows or grounded, communicate with clarity, and lead with calm confidence. Her attachment deepens naturally. She starts trusting your presence in a more meaningful way, not through control, but through emotional reliability. However, if insecurity enters your behavior or you start taking her emotional effort for granted, she will gradually pull back. Not because she stopped feeling, but because her instincts no longer feel emotional safety. A woman rarely disconnects when she stops caring. She disconnects when she no longer feels safe caring. That is why your inner stability becomes the foundation of everything. So if she is showing warmth, effort, softness, or emotional openness, recognize it for what it truly is. It is not casual interest anymore. It is emotional surrender beginning to form. At that point, the connection has already moved beyond surface level. Now, your responsibility is not to chase it, but to protect what created it. Real attraction is not about winning attention. It is about maintaining respect over time. Once she is emotionally invested, she is constantly sensing one thing beneath everything else. Are you still the same man she felt safe with? If your words, actions, and energy remain aligned, she feels secure staying open. But if inconsistency appears, she begins to rebuild her emotional barriers again. When a woman chooses you emotionally, she allows your presence to shape her inner world. She begins adjusting her emotional state based on your stability. That is a significant level of trust, even if it is never spoken out loud. So the real question becomes this: what kind of emotional environment are you creating for her? One that feels steady, or one that feels uncertain? Because once she connects to your energy, it doesn't just stay outside her, it settles inside her. That is why emotional discipline matters so much. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be consistent, rooted in purpose, grounded in direction, stable in your presence, and yes, she will still test that stability from time to time. Not to play games, but to confirm it is real. Every woman, consciously or unconsciously, needs to know that the emotional safety she feels is not temporary. When you respond to those moments without ego, without panic, and without emotional collapse, something deep inside her relaxes further. She begins to trust you on a level that goes beyond words. At that point, attraction stops being something she is deciding and becomes something she is experiencing. And what makes a man unforgettable is not intensity or performance. It is emotional steadiness that feels like peace. Be that presence, protect it, and understand that when a man masters his calm, he doesn't just attract attention. He becomes the place someone feels safe to return to.